We have a great episode for you today. Dr. Dominique Didier is here today to talk about her new book, just like an intro to her new book, Ghost Sharks of the World. We're going to talk about a little bit about her career. We're going to talk about her getting into this book and doing it with our very own Dr. David Ebert. We're going to talk about all that on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. Let's start the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. I'm your co-host, Andrew Lewin, here with my co-host, Dr. David Ebert. Dave, you're back from your trip, which we're going to have a whole episode on that. But we're here today to talk to Dominique Didier about a book that you worked on with her, as well as some others. You must be super excited to talk to Dominique today.
Oh yeah, no, I'm really glad. I mean, she was on our 5th episode.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to having her. I don't know why it's been so long since we've had her on the show. She's a great
so
guest.
Many other people, so many other people.
There's so many people out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm really excited. I mean, I couldn't even think about doing a book like this without somebody like her, because she really is the queen of ghost sharks. I mean, she really, if you want to, I mean, it's just, she's one of those people, like she is literally like a legend in the field, and it's just having the opportunity to work with her. And her and I have collaborated going back 20 years or more now.
Yeah,
we've co-mentored students, and she's just a phenomenal person. She's just a powerhouse to work with, and so I'm really excited to have her on and to kind of talk about the book, catch up on what else she's been up to, and just talk about.
We got into a little bit. She's got a little side hustle going. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah,
We're not going to mention it now, but we've got a little side hustle, which has to do with biology. Believe it or not, it's really cool. Can't wait to get into it. So let's do that. Here's the interview with Dominique. Enjoy, and we will talk to you after. Hey, Dominique, welcome back to the Beyond Jaws podcast. Are you ready to talk about ghost sharks?
Oh, you bet.
I love it.
Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Beyond Jaws podcast, where today we have a real royalty on the podcast with Her Highness, Dr. Dominique Didier, as our special guest. Dominique's been dubbed the Queen of Ratfish by none other than illustrator extraordinaire Ray Troll, who's been a previous guest on our program. Dominique's a professor in the Department of Biology at Millersville University in Pennsylvania, where her research focuses on the taxonomy of chondrichthyan fishes, evolution and systematic of fishes, comparative anatomy and development of fishes, and biology of human sexuality and gender. Dominique was one of our first guests appearing on our 5th episode way back on August 11th, 2021. And now we're up to episode 127. So it's been a little while and long overdue to have her back on the show.
Agreed.
She went to, she attended for a bachelor's degree, Illinois Wesleyan University for a degree in biology. Then she went on and did a PhD in zoology at University of Massachusetts with Dr. Willie Bemis, who was also the previous guest on our show, and he was her major advisor for her PhD. Dominique has a lengthy resume that includes over 50 publications, numerous accomplishments, including being one of the most accomplished chondrichthyan taxonomists, having described more ghost shark species than anyone else on this earth. She's a frequent collaborator of mine and has mentored many students, including some of my former students, such as Kim Caranta, Louis Barnett, Kelsey James, and Jenny Kemper, to mention a few. Dominique and I are currently co-authoring a book, Ghost Sharks of the World, with Jenny Kemper and Britt Finucci, with illustrations by another illustrator extraordinaire, Mark Dando. The book will be published next year by Princeton University Press, and you follow us on social media. We'll let you know once we have a better date on that. She's also a member of the Jaws generation of researchers who started her career in the 1980s, even though she doesn't look that old. And she's also featured in the latest episode of Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive, which you can find on my YouTube channel at Lost Shark Guy. And with that, Dominique, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be back.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I got started looking at ghost sharks as an undergraduate at Illinois Wesleyan University. I actually, believe it or not, wanted to study bats. Love bats. Think they're totally amazing. But my professor at the time who studied bats said, no, too many bat people. Got to study something different. So he brought out this like really horrible fish, that we had in the comparative anatomy lab. He's like, look at this thing. And I was like, oh, not the supreme ugliness. You kidding me? So, but I was, he was persistent. I was persistent. So I said, all right, I'll do it. So I started doing my undergraduate research on this fish. My professor actually bought a few new ones, which it turned out the one I was looking at was kind of rotten. That's why it looked so horrible. So after I started, though, I have to tell you, I've really dove into this research. And when I was looking, when you do any kind of research, you got to find the background publications. I have to say, my seminal publication I was dealing with was published in 1906. That kind of tells you something about what people knew about this. Actually, there was another publication in 1965 by Colin Patterson, but that dealt with fossil taxa, which I was dealing with the living fish, but it was incredibly helpful, wonderful publication. But I realized like nobody's working on these. And being a person who really hates competition, like sports are not my thing, like no competition at all. I was like, this is for me. And that's what got me started. I just realized no one was doing it and someone had to love these things. And so I decided that's me. And I just gonna love them.
How did you, because you're from Illinois and you went to your undergrad there. I just got to ask, how did your professor pick up on radfish in Illinois?
Well, I don't know how he got the inkling that I kind of was interested in marine science. I have to say, I was raised in a pretty unusual household. My parents were scuba divers in 1967. Literally, my mom read about Jacques Cousteau and the regulator, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, and said, we're going to do this, honey. And literally, she and my dad went on a boat. Some guy gave him all the gear and said, go in the water. If you come up alive, you're certified. That was certification in 19. I kid you not. And they became certified scuba divers. And so I grew up with that. Like that was weekends was going with them to a boat. They were out scuba diving. Then we started going to the Caribbean. I've been to places in the Caribbean, seen reefs from like the early 1970s that were pristine at the time. So I had a really rich childhood. And I guess maybe I don't remember if I told that to my professor, but he knew I was interested kind of in marine science. And so I think that's why he pushed me to this fish. And I've always had that interest in that drive to be involved with the ocean and involved in marine science.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And then obviously you went to University of Massachusetts at Amherst and you hooked up with Willie Bemis. How'd that happen?
Oh, that was another really well thought out idea. Oh man, do not track my choices because I did not plan anything. How I got to graduate school is I was a TA in the comparative anatomy lab, and I don't know what I was going to do. I just kind of liked biology. My professor said, what are you going to do after school? And I said, oh, I don't know. He said, why don't you go to grad school? And I went, oh, what's that? Because my parents had never gone to college. And so,
right.
He said, well, you pretty much do this, but you get a PhD and then you teach college. I went, sounds good. Sign me up. And then, well, he had to pick a grad school. And he said, well, where are you going to go? I said, I don't know. I don't know anything about grad school. I said, where'd you go? He said, UMass Amherst. I said, all right, sounds good to me. I mean, it was not a real good plan.
You were very trusting person.
Yeah, and actually how I got into Willie's lab is pretty funny. And I don't know if Willie will remember the story, but I went to meet him and visit the school, but he wasn't there. He was off doing field work. So when I toured the campus, decided, this is good. I'm going to go to grad school there. And at the time to sign up for classes, you walked around with a card and the professor signed you into all your classes. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find Willie to save my life. I didn't know what the guy looked like. So I went to the secretary's office and said, look, I'm supposed to be Willie's graduate student. Just sign me up to be in all his classes and work with him. And she's like, well, you really need his permission. I said, no. I'm like talking my way into it. I'm like, he wants me. Don't worry about it. And then finally she said, you could ask him. He's sitting right there. Now that I feel like an idiot.
Was he listening into the conversation?
Yes, he was sitting right next to me. As I'm talking my way into his lab. Yeah, it was not a really...
He's like, I don't need it. It's fine.
You knew that was going to go one of two ways. Either you're going to get into the lab or you're going to be back home in Illinois.
Pretty much, yeah.
Fantastic.
That's a great... I don't think I'd heard that one before.
That's a great story. A pretty funny story. That was how I first met Willie.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned you were a TA during your undergrad. Is that I've never heard of that before. Was that like a special thing, or did you normally or did the university not have a graduate program where you had TAs? Like, how did you become a TA as an undergrad?
Well, I was really lucky. I went to, Illinois Wesleyan was a really small school.
Yeah.
And, I showed up as a bio major, all young and bright eyed, and I just worked really hard. I got a really good grade in my first class. And so the professor, tapped me and said, do you want to be a TA? So they often drew upon their top students to be TAs.
Okay.
I actually TA'd every single course I took there, except for
unreal.
Except for the last senior year. I because of course I couldn't come
Right.
back and TA. But yeah, I TA'd botany, I TA'd development, I TA'd comparative anatomy. It was great.
So, but that's not I'm in Canada. We don't know that doesn't normally occur. Is that a rare thing, or is that more for smaller schools?
It's pretty rare, and I think even for
Yeah.
small schools, it's kind of rare. I got pretty lucky.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fantastic opportunity.
It was great.
Yeah.
Like I loved it.
You learn so much more. Like it's almost like a second level of learning because you know the course material, but now you're learning probably even more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We didn't have you? I should have had you on the show when we did a special Jaws 50th anniversary. So I got to ask you the question: did Jaws have any influence in your decision?
I'm glad you didn't have me on the show because Jaws had no influence on me. All I remember is as a kid, of course, the book and the movie and the picture of the woman swimming and the shark, the whole thing. Yeah. But I just never watched any of those movies. I just, as a kid, I was really scared of everything. Like documentaries on Sasquatch would scare me and it's fake,
right?
So I was really not into it. But I did watch those movies like Jaws, and I watched The Exorcist and all those 70s movies when I was an adult.
Oh, they were scary.
Well, they didn't scare me then.
No,
because
those mess with my mind.
There was so much hype. I was because I was so scared as a kid of everything. So then, like movie wise, everything. I wasn't scared of outdoors. Just movies scared me. Yeah. And then, so when I finally, it's going to be so terrifying. And then when I finally watched it as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, the effects are so fake. This is not really happening. Oh,
yeah.
So I have to say, Jaws was a big letdown.
all I could say is all the people, having watched it, we talked about this in the episode because Chris Lowe and Greg Scommel and Lisa Tans, we all saw it when it came out. And when you saw it in 75, it looked like a really shark. We knew nothing about it. But when you watch it years later, you're like, it looks like a fake shark. When you watch it now.
Oh, I'm sure if I had seen it in 1975, I would, it would have had a totally different impact on me. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. It was kind of different. The only reason we mentioned is because like when we started like kind of in the 80s, it was, and you kind of just described it, your own career path getting started. It was kind of like the Wild West. Like they'd throw out something like, hey, why don't you go work on ratfish? Or, hey, why don't you go work on, this shark or this ray? And it's like, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. There was no, like, you didn't think about it. It was like, sure. Okay. Because there's just no, it wasn't like,
it's more you just did what you were told kind of thing. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. It would just be like, literally throw almost all the people I just mentioned, and you fit right in there, Dominic. It's just like somebody just throw out some idea and you're like, hey, that's kind of cool. And I think that's kind of, you're in it right now today, but I think that's kind of missing a bit in some of the programs today where they don't give the students like enough, like, hey, come up with your own idea for something. Mm-hmm. There's too much, it's too rigid. That's just my impression. What's your
I think we're really lucky to be in a really special time when we started our careers where there was that kind of sense of opportunity. You weren't so worried about like, I have to make sure 10 years from now I can get a grant, so I have to plan everything like that. We just kind of said, let's do it and see what happens. And we were really lucky, I think.
Yeah. I think, well, you hit on something too, like when you're talking about like when you're finishing your undergrad and somebody said, why don't you go do a grad degree? And you're like, okay. And I think if you talk to every one of the people I just mentioned, Chris, Greg, Lisa, myself, none of us had like some grandiose, like, I'm going to go do a PhD. It was kind of like, well, I got a bachelor's degree. Now what? And then we all sort of, there was no, whereas the young people today are like, got this plan, like, okay, I need to do this. I need to do this. None of us thought like PhD. And I was like, nobody in my family had gone to school. It was like, grad school? What are you talking about?
I know. Right. I know. My mom used to send me tormenting cards my senior year. Like, what are you going to do? Open a biology store?
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Trolled by your own mom. Like,
I was.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was just such a good, like you said, it was such a good experience that time. Cause it was such a Wild West. It's hard it'd be nice to recapture that. I think for a lot of the young people today, to just have that freedom to like, hey, I'm going to go do whatever. And they just go do it. They don't have, there's no constraints. There's no, I have to go, there's no real, I mean, like I've talked about, and you can attest to this, Dominique. There was no field of conservation biology back then. It was just like
Right.
wasn't even a thing. It was just
Yeah.
like and you get something like, why are you doing sharks, or not even to mention ratfish. You're even like fewer than. I mean, I remember the first time I saw your name pop up somewhere, and I kind of remember where it was. I think you're about when you were going to New Zealand to do some work there, and I was kind of going like, somebody else is working. Because I was a student at Leonard's. I go, somebody else working on ratfish? Who's working on ratfish? And I saw you're like, Willie. I didn't know Willie would do anything with ratfish, and I saw your name kept popping up for a number of years there, and I go, oh, I guess there is someone else working on these things. Because at the time, Leonard was about the only guy that I knew that did anything with ratfish at the time, Leonard Campagno. And so it was just such a small group. So it was just kind of interesting. They just got you onto that, and you just took off and just really did exceptionally well in the whole field. So I'm sure we heard the story before when Ray was on, but how did you happen to cross paths with Ray Troll later on?
What happened was, I knew about his art, and he obviously had heard about me because he's so interested in drawing the white spot ratfish and the other ratfishes and other fishes as well. And out of the blue, I got a package from him. He really just, I don't know what inspired him, but he silkscreen, he printed a lab coat. And on the back, it was like Ratfish Charters, and it had this whole, Rachel print on the back. And he just sent it to me out of the blue and just said, hey, people have told me I should get to know you. And I was just thought that was just so cool. I still have the lab coat. I still wear it. It's really cool. Beat up, but it's cool. And, and so I wrote him back, that's how we made the connection. And so then we chatted, and then whenever he was traveling around, he'd come visit me. At the time, I was working at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And so, this was so long ago, but anyway, he and I connected, and then he was starting to work on museum exhibits. So I was able to connect him to our exhibit staff. So then he made connections with the Academy of Natural Sciences. So that kind of brought him, full circle in with where I was working, and we had a lot of opportunity to work together, and it just flourished from there. We've periodically connected, talked, get together whenever, I'm out west or if he's out east. So that's awesome.
He's definitely and he's definitely he definitely's got a good eye, artist eye for things. And we talked about this when he was on, but I want to hear your thing about the buzztooth shark that turned out to be a chimera.
Yes. Yeah, well, that was one of those situations where he was coming to visit me. I can't, again, remember why. Maybe a new exhibit was coming. I think he had an exhibit at the time. Now I was at Millersville, and I think he had his exhibit up at the North Museum in Lancaster. And so he said, we got to get together. So he came to my lab, and we were looking at some fish and just chatting. And he said to me, he had his computer out. He's like, you got to get interested in this. There's this whole group out there, and they've got all these fossils, and we gotta look at these fossils. We gotta figure out these buzz sharks. And so that's kind of where the ball got rolling. I said, well, I happen to have some money. And then we got Leif Tepania and his graduate student were able to get the fossil down. I guess Texas was where the imaging center that they did it at. And then they said, well, we don't know how to interpret this. So then I got connected with Alain Pradel. He's in Paris. And then we needed to get some biomechanics. So I connected him with Cheryl Wilga at, I think she was URI. So anyway, we just built this whole team, and got the ball rolling on this big project. It was a lot of fun. It was very cool.
And what'd you think when you came out? Because everybody kept thinking this was some kind of a shark.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was a ghost shark.
What sold me on it was we were on a conference call, and they were analyzing a lot of the imagery and said the lower jaw is so short. And I said, it's just like a chimera lower jaw. It's really short. And that the jaw joints moved forward of the eye. It's very typical what you see in the holocephalians.
Yeah. And anybody listening there, go check out the buzztooth saw shark. Is it? that was the formal name, or
Well, it's helicoprion. It's the
helicoprion? Yeah,
buzz sawtooth shark, I think.
but yeah,
I just think of it as
go check.
helicoprion.
Yeah, I do too. But go check it out. Helicoprion, buzztooth shark. Look at the image of that, and then just think this is a ghost shark.
Yeah,
that'll give you some nightmares. I'll tell you that. With
and Edestus too. Edestus too is over there. A lot of these crazy things that we think are sharks are actually chimeras. They're on the chimera side of the tree.
And they go back, like the chimeras, the ghost shark, they go back like over 400 million years, the earliest ancestors. Is that correct?
I think we've got them at like 375, maybe a little more than 375. But okay. Yeah, right around that time,
They go back quite
Devonian, Carboniferous, basically.
Mm-hmm. What are the modern ones that we see today? And there's only 59 right now. And what was there? But they were more prolific at one time. And so when did these sort of modern ones sort of come about? How long ago did that?
Oh man, you're stretching me now.
Just I don't know myself.
The more modern, it was sort of like we're talking like end of the Mesozoic into the Cenozoic,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so right at that time when we had like basically KT boundary kind of thing, when they were most abundant was down in the Carboniferous. All right. And then what we see sort of the transition to the more modern ones, kind of Jurassic, and then in that, Mesozoic time period. And there's also just new research that shows that all of that what was around at that time, probably due to a variety of environmental factors, the evolution of other faunas in shallow seas, they moved deep to escape. A lot of these huge predators that had moved, the Mesozoic, they returned, a lot of these mammals returned to the sea and reptiles returned to the sea and so on. So they moved down deep. And so that was probably, late Mesozoic and then into the Cenozoic when they moved into deep waters and then were able to radiate, without the huge predators that the predation and perhaps other environmental factors that they may have faced at the time.
Yeah. So most of them kind of went into the deep sea now because of the 59 species we have coming out in our book. Most of them, except for a few exceptions, the Calorhynchus, the plownose, ghost sharks, they pretty much the rest of them are all deep sea for the most part. So, but do you think they pretty much evolved into a deep sea from more coastal species?
That's a speculation, and that may be very likely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was kind of curious because it seems like most people think like it evolved from the deep sea to the shallow, but in reality, I think the sharks and rays actually evolved from coastal species into the more of the deep sea, took up habitats where they maybe less predation or something where they went. And so it was kind of a whole good questions for some grad students out there if you're looking for a project to do.
Oh yeah. Just saying. Tons of great questions.
Even just going from coastal down that deep, how did they take the pressure? Like the pressure must be immense at that point. Like how did it not how did they not just implode as they went down?
Well, if you think about it, all the chondrichthyans, they lack a swim bladder. They all rely on their oily livers. So in a way, you could use the term and say they were somewhat pre-adapted to be able to move into deeper waters because they lack those air-filled cavities and the reliance on a swim bladder. So it does give them the ability, they're already essentially pre-adapted to go deeper and find that refuge.
But they're like cartilaginous skeleton wouldn't just implode as well with the pressure?
Actually, it might give them more of an advantage because it's far more flexible. It doesn't face the same kind of stresses that bone faces. Actually, bone is far more important when you're in shallow or, in fact, even terrestrial environments where you need bone because you need the bone to be more weight-bearing in the terrestrial environment. And also it needs to be able to repair itself, which is a key feature of bone in the evolution of bone, particularly for the terrestrial animals. But if you're a marine animal, and in fact, if we look at the fish, if we think about fish, their bones are very slender and thin and mostly acellular.
Yeah. So it's interesting today because you notice I see particularly one of the, I guess, more positive things with social media is you see people getting a little more interested in ghost sharks now versus before. And that's, if there's one positive, maybe, I don't know if it's social media had anything to do with it, but I definitely see more people because it literally was like a cult because there was basically you, me, and a couple of our students for a while was pretty much it. We got, I think our one big recruit was Jenny Kemper, who was a former student of mine who did a few, who's done several with both you and I, and like now
Mm-hmm.
she's like completely like the princess of ghost sharks now with all the species she's done,
Mm-hmm.
and good she's co-author with us. But that's kind of, it is kind of interesting. Do you what's your sort of feeling how why people may be getting more interested in the ghost sharks? Do you have any
I
thoughts?
do think social media has played a big role. I mean, people just scroll through, they suddenly see a picture,
Hmm.
um, they get interested, they hear the word ghost shark, and they're like, what the heck? I got to see what that is,
Mm-hmm.
And so that has been one of the great things because, within minutes, you can get a lot of information out there and pictures and little
Yeah.
stories. I mean, Dave, what you're doing with your little Instagram, new pictures all the time. I mean, people see that. They're just like, wow, that's a cool thing. You're really
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of getting people
Yeah.
inspired to see and want to know more of them. You see that? I know when I
Yeah.
see something on Instagram, I'm like, I got to learn more. I'll go Google
Yeah.
it or I'll go look up a
Mm-hmm.
paper. I'll find more
Well,
information. So it's
yeah, well,
really good.
I found, I've told this story before, but I found when I started using ghost shark versus ratfish or chimera, it just exploded on
The
social media.
verses. Yeah.
Yeah, it just, when you
Yeah.
say if I give a talk to you probably see this too. If I give a talk to a general audience and I say ghost shark, everybody lights up. If I say
Yeah.
ratfish or chimera, it's just blank stares.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody, nothing. But if you, so
I
I think,
know.
so there's a bit,
Crickets.
There's
there's,
definitely a
yeah,
marketing
crickets.
thing going on that.
Oh yeah, there's definitely there's definitely a marketing component to that thing. But yeah, I think if it inspires people to like pay more attention to them, I say why not?
Absolutely.
I had one good kind of a test I had last year was I had a paper with that Britt Finucci was a lead on that came out. It was on the cover of Science and had to do with shark liver oil fisheries globally. And this was on the cover of Science. The day before that came out, I had a new species of ghost shark described from one specimen in the Andaman Sea. That thing exploded on social media, whereas the Science thing, almost nothing, got no traction at all, even though my university was pushing it. Everybody's going like, wow, Science magazine cover, very little. I got traction on that for like the next 6 months. And then in 6 months, the next thing happened was you and I had a paper come out with Britt and Jenny
Yeah.
on on a new long nose spookfish that took off and went like wildfire. So like those two things last year outshine publicly a paper on, like, say, Science, which outside a small community nobody reads. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing,
But it
not a
is the
knock on it.
premier journal in science, it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely a feat as a scientist. I think you're just looking at, audience and who's listening to what and who's watching what. And obviously, like, I think just the way, I think you're right, Dominic. I think the way people are consuming, just everything that's happening in, um, just in like online, and you see like this really interesting looking animal. Some people may think it's ugly. Some people think it's really cool. You're starting to see a lot of deep sea, especially deep sea things. People are really curious into the deep sea. So
Mhm.
any animal that comes up that's alien looking, or that's not like what you would normally expect, people are just like, oh my gosh, like what is this? I need to find out everything about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
really nice because it opens up that access to everybody who has social media to look at this and find out more. I think it's really
Mhm.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to deviate for a minute here and have you tell us a little bit about your wool business.
Sure. Yeah.
how
Well,
did how did that all start?
well, I'm not just all about ghost sharks. I have another life too. I do a lot of other things. But yeah, I live in beautiful Lancaster County. I'll put in a plug for Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It's beautiful. I never thought I would end up here, but I love it. I shouldn't say that too much though. Then everybody will want to live here. No, don't live here. Um, don't move here. So I'm very fortunate to, my husband and I have some land. And in Lancaster County, we really value our farmland. We have a lot of programs to preserve farmland. And when we saw that the farmer who we're very good friends with, who farms right next to us, was selling his land, we talked to him and said, we don't want you to sell that land. So we bought it from him. And so now we're stuck with 12 acres. What the heck do you do with 12 acres? Because we're not
Yeah.
farmers. So we did a little research, and I'm in a big kick to like keep the land more natural. I don't want to see all these pesticides. I don't want to see a lot of herbicides and things on the land. So I looked up, I was thinking about grain, growing some like native wheat, but that's really hard to harvest and process. So we landed on sheep. We landed on sheep because sheep they have small hooves and and then when they bite, they don't have teeth on both their jaws. So they just kind of tear the grass, And so they don't ruin the fields. The fields stay very, very nice. And they walk around and they poop and they fertilize it. And then all this beautiful hay and grass grows and we harvest that and we feed that to them and stuff. So they're really cute. And then we shear them, but they're merino. So they're a wool sheep. I've learned a lot about sheep. You have wool sheep, you have meat sheep, you have multi-purpose sheep. And so I take care of them and we harvest the wool. We have a really small flock. So we harvest the wool and we sell primarily to hand spinners who are looking for merino fleeces. So, it's very specialty wool for people who want a really nice fleece. And so that's what I do in my spare time.
So how did being a biologist, studying ghost sharks help you with understanding how to raise sheep and how to take care of sheep?
That's really a good question. I think someone who gets into biology, and I think when I got into biology, that was when I was first getting my PhD. That was one of the things I realized. It's like I've now achieved the ultimate degree, the ultimate recognition as a biologist. And I said, that opens doors. Now I could decide I wanted to study plants. I have the credentials to do anything in biology. And I think when you approach it that way and say, I'm not just a ghost shark scientist, that you can, you open your world to all sorts of things in biology, and anything in biology I'm curious about, I'm interested in, and I now have the skills to go and learn about and do that. I mean, I also serve on the board of a local organic farm. And so what did I know about organic farming? But now I'm talking about harvesting and seeds and all kinds of stuff, And it's an organic farm that serves the intellectually and developmentally disabled community. So learning all about that. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really great.
Sound like a way you actually just broaden your sort of horizons that, you get to some point, you just decide like you want to do something a little different than ghost sharks. Hard to believe, but you might want to step away from that a little bit more at some point. In your career. So what do you think about, so we're doing this book together.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about that?
Oh my gosh, Dave, I'm so excited. I mean, I have to tell you, I know you knew this when we talked, but I always had it on my bucket list. That was to me, the penultimate moment in my career. I was going to write this book. And I had drafted it in 2005, I had drafts of, books and papers I was going to write. A lot of things change in life. I never really got down to pouring myself into it. So when you emailed or called and said, hey, Jenny and I have got this idea and you want to jump on board? I was like, oh my gosh, yes. So yeah, I think it's great. And I'm just so honored to be working with the four of us, the experts on ghost sharks, you, me, Jenny, and Britt. We bring so much to the table because all of us have found our careers in slightly different areas. So I just feel like this is, the book is advertised as, well, it is the first book on ghost sharks. And it's going to be the most comprehensive and complete book on ghost sharks. But it is really true because we've got everything. We've got genetics. We've got the whole conservation and biogeography. We've got the anatomy, the systematics, the history. I mean, it's between among us, I said among because there's four of us. I'm so excited about it. I just hope people want to buy this book and get excited.
Yeah. Cool. And Mark Dano's doing the illustrations, and Mark's, if you've seen any of his work, he's super detailed and he really gets in there and just puts in an enormous amount of work in that. And I always tell people, if you're going to do this kind of book, you got to have an illustrator of Mark's caliber to do that. That's really going to, we can write the best stuff, but everybody's going to look at all the pictures.
Well, I guess I got to say, true. Many people will just buy this book to look at the cool pictures. Yeah, so I hope they read it too. Sure. But you're right. I mean, this is a book to have just to see the beautiful artwork because
So who do you think
brings them to life?
Who do you want to actually read this book, look at the book, consume it, and treat it like a Ghost Shark Bible as it is?
Everybody. No.
Everybody.
My husband was asking me about this. He's a biologist too, but he does something totally different. He's a biochemist. I think first and foremost, it will be a lot of there will be some scientists, that are
Hmm.
interested, but I think a lot of enthusiasts, like there's a huge crowd of people that love like Shark Week. This is really
Yeah, for
appealing to the
sure.
people who love
For
Shark Week,
sure.
who just are
Hmm.
fascinated with these creatures. And I think people who just are interested in natural history, the kind of people who go and say, I want to get this plant book, look at these pictures, or I want to get this mushroom book because I think mushrooms are
Yeah.
cool. It's going to be, so I think it can appeal to a broad audience. There's a lot of people out there who just have from a very deep interest to a superficial interest, but people are interested in science.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and really over the last, say almost 125 years now, really your 1995 monograph on the chimeroid fishes was really the seminal work in this thing. But unless you're into it like myself or Britt or Jenny, the average person's not going to read it. But that's
No.
if you're a young student out there looking to learn about ghost sharks, Dominique Didier's 1995 publication, you can DM her and she'll send you a link to it.
Yeah.
That is really the seminal work in this group. But this book, I think, because we got all the illustrations in there, I mean, I'm hoping we're going to inspire younger people, particularly to kind of take up the
Yeah.
mantle, to want to like find out more about ghost sharks, kind of
Yeah.
push
And,
the
and,
envelope.
and I'll say I'm proud of my PhD thesis, and it is the work other scientists will refer to, but it isn't something you want to sit down and read if you're just a layperson or you're just interested. So I really think we've done a great job of distilling all this very technical stuff into something that people can read, relate to, and
Hmm.
see the pictures and understand it.
Right. And
Yeah.
we did try to, we wrote this with the intention for the average layperson. So it's not,
Hmm.
we get the points across, but it's written
Yeah.
so it's the average person, you don't have to be a technical person. You don't have to be a
Right.
scientist.
There's
You
not a lot
just,
of jargon used.
right.
It's in like
Yeah.
everyday language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's some word we use, explain what it means.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then we try to keep it that way. And it's a type of book we want the average person to pick up. They're just somebody who might has an interest in these things. They may not go into marine biology or fishes, but they might have a curiosity or an interest in them. And so that's what we're really hoping
Absolutely.
to do with the book.
When we learn about these animals, we learn about what they look like, their features, and what makes them so special. A lot of people all are wondering, like, I know we don't know a ton of information on their ecology or their conservation status, but some people are probably wondering, like, they live in the deep. How do we know they're doing well? How do we, like, each species that's in the book? How do we know they're not doing well? There's a lot of stuff going on with just looking at deep sea in general, with deep sea mining and things like that. When people look at these animals, they start to fall in love with these animals. What do you say to people who want to make sure that they're protecting them? How can they go about making sure that these animals are protected in the deep sea?
Well, I think they need to treat it just like all other animals in all other environments in the deep sea. You brought up some good things, like we hear about deep sea mining and drilling,
Hmm.
and even the noise pollution and other things. I think just awareness that all of these human activities um, need to be conducted with the utmost of care and thoughtfulness and regulations, so that we do protect not just the ghost sharks, but the things the ghost
Yeah.
sharks eat and the things that eat ghost sharks. And those ecosystems are very, very fragile. And I don't think we completely understand how fragile they are, which is somewhat problematic, often going in
Yeah.
and like, yeah, we can just go in and do this. Um, so it is a constant balancing act. It's a constant balancing act. On
Hmm.
the one hand, like I always say, I did have done some consulting and involved in oil pipeline. It ended up not being built, but it doesn't matter. And people would say, well, how, you're a conservationist, you love the ocean. How can you do that? I said, if I can do something to make, because I like to drive my car. I've just admitted, I like my car. I need gas for my car. This wasn't that kind of
Hmm.
gas. Doesn't matter. I like heat.
Yeah.
But if I can make it done in a better way, then
Right.
I'm doing something, instead of, if I can have
Hmm.
a little bit of a say, and I had a say. I made them do more intensive environmental inspections than would be required because I stood up and said, you
Yeah.
need to look at this. So, that's the best we can do. We have to stand up and make those
Yeah.
little bitty decisions. We're not going to change everything.
Mhm.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Now you were able to carve out a niche area with Ghost Sharks. We talked about it the last episode. We talked a little bit this episode that what got you interested in it and so forth. Even though it wasn't it wasn't love at first sight, let's just say, but you got
Yeah.
to know like the curious things. There are a lot of young scientists who are listening to this, whether they're shark scientists or marine biologists or people who do biology on land and wildlife biology. What would you recommend? Would you recommend like looking at a specific animal and really niching down? Like I know Dave is a big proponent of it, but since you went through it like right at the beginning, I know you've studied other animals since, but like, would you recommend that as a good career move is to find something that hasn't really been studied, whether it's an animal, an area that you can get access to, and then go study it? Is that a benefit in this career?
I'd say there is some benefit to being like the only one or being the first one to do
Mm,
something. And so yeah, I would say I would encourage people, find something that you're passionate about. And if it is a specific animal, if it's a specific ecosystem, if it's a specific plant, if it's, a, a kind of genetic process, I don't know, but
hmm
find what you're passionate about and do it. And yes, because you're going to make that niche. If you're the one that wants to do it and you're thinking creatively about and because you're passionate, you will make it happen for yourself. You'll find the
Right.
grants, you'll find the opportunities. And that's my other
Right.
advice is really um, walk through every open door, every opportunity. And that is one thing I can say when people say, oh, you've had this amazing career, you've done all these things and blah, blah, blah. It's because I always took every opportunity that came my way. I jumped at it. And I think, Dave, you would say the same thing. You just took every opportunity. If someone said, hey, I have a chance for you to go on a boat and fish for this and go on a survey. Oh, sign me up.
Yeah.
We have a chance for you to do this meeting or write this paper I just said, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And I see too many young people today, and I'm going to just lay this. I see especially men and women, but they're like, I don't want to leave. My boyfriend will break up with me. That is the one I just want to slap my head and be like, are you kidding me? Take every opportunity. Other opportunities will always be there, but take
hmm
every
hmm
opportunity and go, because your life will go in directions you never expected. And you'll look back, and I sure look back at my age now and go,
Yeah.
wow, what a ride. And I'm still on that roller
100%.
coaster.
Exactly. And you just hit it. And I'll come back to, we talked earlier in this episode, and I tell people, go listen to this Jaws episode we did a few months ago with Lisa Natanson, Greg Skolman, Chris Lowe, and then now Dominic. Every one of us from that era was just like, hey, what the hell? Go for it.
Yeah.
There's nothing, there's no, the reins are off, man. Just go do it. And I think that if you do that, you'll find your niche out there. You'll find your passion. And that's just awesome advice, Dominique. I just think
Agreed.
that's really what I think a lot of the people, the young people particularly, need to hear. Just like, freaking go for it. Don't worry. Don't obsess. I think it's like, don't obsess on like, getting into this program or that program, because none of us from that era had any grandiose plan like, oh, I'm going to go get a PhD and none of us did. I still know how I know how I got into my undergraduate. I don't know if you knew this, but I've told us a couple episodes, but I only got into like my university through wrestling, college wrestling. I got turned down academically. I got in on a wrestling scholarship. I got turned down. The coach I got a rejection. In fact, I got a rejection letter. And the coach called me that night and asked if I still wanted to come. I said, well, yeah, I got a rejection letter. You let's throw that away. I'll send you the acceptance next week. That's literally how I got into.
Do whatever you can do to get in. That's it.
And take whatever opportunities, like you just said it, Dominic, whatever opportunity. Somebody hands you that opportunity, like, hell, go for it. What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit too, like when I went back for my master's, I didn't have the marks to get into the university for a master's. So my professor's like, look, I want you to work for me as a marine technician, because that's what I had just done before my previous job. And then you can do a makeup semester, and then you show them you could do the work that you need to do to get the marks, and then they'll let you in. So I did one semester, makeup semester, while I worked as a technician. And I got to go all around Nova Scotia during that summer, and I got kick-ass marks. So I was getting in the 90s, and they're like, yeah, you get in, no problem now. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, it was a bit of a pain to have to, do another semester of undergraduate work. But if you want if you want to get into something and you really want something, and I had this opportunity to do it, you go ahead and do it, because you never know when you're going to get those chances. Those chances don't always come in, and they may work out, they may not work out, and it may not be perfect, but it's definitely worthwhile checking them out, especially when you're young and you don't have a lot of experience under your belt. It's probably one of the best things that you can do.
And I think you just touched on it too, Andrew, is that it's kind of like a personal responsibility. If they give you that opportunity, it's up to you to make the most of it. It's not going to be, if you didn't make it, that wasn't on anybody but you, but
exactly,
you had that chance. And I think particularly young people, like, you have to approach it that way. It's nobody else. You don't make it, it's not anybody else's fault. It's up to you. It's in your hands to make it or break it, and so
it's just like the book that you got presented with, Dominique. You weren't sure when you were going to write your book. Now you get to write this book on ghost sharks, and you get to do it with some amazing people as well.
And it's going to be even better than if I had what I had originally envisioned. So this is fantastic.
Right.
If I just add one thing too, we'll have an episode later when the book comes out, but having Jenny Kemper, who was my student, then she went on to work with Gavin Naylor, and Dominique was very involved with Jenny's career early on. It makes me happy, like, to be actually co-authoring a book with a former student of mine. And then of course with Dominique, it's just like freaking amazing to have that. And then Britt Finucci came in here. So we got like the dream team for Ghost Sharks. But it just sort of happens, and it happened along. It just sort of, things kind of fell into place. And I hope everybody enjoys the book when it comes out.
It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see it.
So it's cool. Well, Dominique, I want to thank you very much for coming on today's episode. And we're going to have you back sooner. We can't wait 4 more years to have you back on.
Okay.
You're invited when the book comes out. We'll be back on for that episode.
Love to chat about the book, and hopefully Britt and Jenny can join us too.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Do you have anything, final things you want to say to anybody?
I just want to remind people, International Ghost Shark Day is coming up, so make sure that you have got your celebrations planned and that you are ready to celebrate appropriately. October 30th, International Ghost Shark Day. Bring it on.
And be sure. Yeah, bring it on. Post your favorite ghost shark on social media. And we'll have Dominique and I's and Britt and Jenny's social media up there. Post your favorite ghost shark and tell us why you like it, and tag us. And we'll reshare
it. Yep.
That'd be amazing. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Dominique. We really enjoyed having you on. Can't wait to have you back.
Oh, great. Thanks, you guys. It's been a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique, for joining us on today's episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast. Dave, you going to buy a farm? I know you had an aquaculture place.
I've been a farmer. Abalone, yeah. I've been a farmer, an abalone farmer. So I've been down that road. I think my next thing, I'm going to become like a full-time documentary producer, writer.
There you go.
Try to
We've
expand
been doing
our
it.
Series. Oh yeah,
we've been doing it.
We've been doing it. We've been doing the series, and just a plug for that. If you haven't caught episode 4 of Searching for Lost Sharks: Extinct or Alive, Dominique's in that episode. And I really hope you check it out along with some of the other Jaws generation people. And I don't want to give it away, but definitely check out the episode, because she is definitely one of the people featured in that episode. But yeah, I doing this book was just phenomenal with her. And we worked with one of my former students, Jenny Kemper, who was also mentored by Dominique as well. And when Jenny came in there, she wasn't even thinking taxonomy. She was working on feeding ecology. And the next thing you know, she's becoming one of the rising stars in the field of chondrichthyan taxonomy. And
that's awesome.
It's really awesome. For me, it's just being an advisor and stuff. It's really cool to see. Then, of course, we got Britt Finucci, another rising star in the field, involved as well. She's one of the few other people who really got into deep sea sharks, especially ghost sharks. So you literally got the dream team on this book. And we'll talk a little more about the book when it comes out next year. But it was really great having her on the show and talking about her little side hustle, as you said, with the sheep and farming and everything else. And I thought she shared some stories I don't think she shared last time about how she got into graduate school and everything, which most of the people from my era, that seems to be the story.
That was interesting.
You kind of blunder into it like, hey, go to grad school. Sure, I'll go. So yeah, and so I guess I emphasize that to the young people listening, is that it's not a straight trajectory. So don't feel discouraged or disappointed if your career's kind of going doesn't seem like it's going in the right direction. Just keep your eye on the ball on where you want to be. How you get there is, that's all the fun part is the journey. Literally, it really is the fun part of the journey. And I think Dominique said that as well. It's like, it's just it's the journey. It's the fun part, to get where you're going. Just, keep your eye on the ball.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is, right? You got to be in love with biology. Whatever path you choose, whether it's sharks, fish, whatever it might be, invertebrates, you got to be in love with biology. You got to get into it. You got to immerse yourself into it. And then you'll find, whatever comes out of it, you will find it, and it'll hit you, and you'll just be like enthralled in it, just like Dominique is with ghost sharks, and just like you are with finding lost sharks. It may not be a specific species or a specific type of species, or it could be a habitat for all you know. As long as you are passionate, each and every day you say, okay, what am I going to do today to advance the field, or what can I do today to make a contribution, even if it's little contributions here and there. You can do that each and every day, and you feel good about yourself afterwards.
And I think one other thing, Andrew, she really hit on this, I think was good, is like, take whatever opportunities are presented to you.
Yeah.
And make the most of them. Just, when you're a young grad student, you should be open to like learning everything you can. And opportunity comes up. I'm going to cruise for 3 months. Great. I'm off.
Exactly.
Here I go. Or just whatever. And learn any skills you can, but take advantage of opportunities, because you never know what doors those opportunities are going to offer you.
Agreed.
So great advice from her.
Great advice. It was a great episode. It was fun to get her on the podcast again. So Dominique, thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait to have you back on shortly to talk about the book, because that book will be released soon. We just don't have a date on it yet. We don't even have pre-sale date yet, right? We're waiting to hear back. So we'll wait. We'll get it soon, and we'll let you guys know once it's out there, because I highly recommend. I know the people who are listening to this, the audience here, will want to get this book. I think it's going to be a great one. I can't wait to read it and take a look at those Dando pictures, because, man, Dando makes some dandy pictures.
Yes, he does. He does. We'll have to have Mark back on the show too. He's
to talk about it. Absolutely. It'll be a great episode. Dave, thank you so much again. And Dominique, we love having you on. Can't wait to have you back on. And everybody else who's listening to this, thank you so much for supporting us. If you have ideas on who you'd like on, just let us know. We'd be happy to find them and get them on and invite them on the show. Dave, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they do so?
It's Lost Shark Guy, and please go to my channel, Lost Shark Guy, and check out the series Searching for Lost Sharks, Extinct or Alive. Episode 4 is up now, and please subscribe. It really helps out if you can subscribe to that. And then on Instagram, Lost Shark Guy.
Absolutely. And of course, you can watch this. If you're listening to this, you can also watch this on YouTube if you go to our Beyond Jaws podcast YouTube channel. And of course, you can listen to this on all your favorite podcast apps. So I want to thank you guys for joining us again today. This has been another episode of the Beyond Jaws podcast from Dave and I. We hope you have a great day, great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later, and happy conservation.